Alright guys, today we are going to be building one of the most popular buy and fly drones. You can build this at home just like I did for, if I'm honest, quite a fraction of the price of what you would pay if you just bought the buy and fly. And it's very much the same thing, except you know how it's put together. If anything goes wrong, you know how to fix it. Just hang in there a sec for those sexy LEDs to come on. Any day now. There we go. Look at that. Hi, so let's get started. The frame we're going to be using is the iFlight nazgul. This is the dead cat version, just because I'm planning to use the O3 air unit and I don't like props in my shots, even though I am going to most likely be flying this with a GoPro as well. Just like to have the option of not having to use the GoPro for the O3 air unit is absolutely fine for like social media shots and everything like that. So a bunch of stickers. This is the LED side plates that come on the nazgul, bunch of spares, TPU pieces. This is the LED control board. Got all the frame parts, all the bits and bobs, screws, nuts, whatever you, the footsies. There's the face, camera mount parts, 2 battery straps and 2 sets of battery pads, 2 sets of battery pads. Alright, the motors I got is iFlight. It's the Zing 2207 1800 kV motors. This is obviously going to be a 6S build. It's the Zing E Pro. So there we got the screws and a nut. Here we go. That's that gorgeous motor, brand new. Flight controller and ESC. So this is the iFlight Blitz Mini because the frame comes with 20 by 20 mounting holes. This is the F4 version just because that's the only version I could find when I was procuring parts for this build. And then the ESC is the E55S, so it's BLLS ESC. The 4-in-1 EC, of course. It would have been nice to have BL-32, but beggars can't be choosers. This is all I could find, but if something does go wrong with this stack, I'm definitely going to upgrade to the F7 Blitz Mini stack, which comes with the BL-32 ESC. Happy Model Express LRS receiver. This comes with 2 different antennas that you can choose from, and a little piece of plastic heat shrink it in. Then O3 air unit, as I mentioned before. One thing to note, I'm not going to be using this original DJI antenna. I don't think even the buy and flies come with this antenna. I'm going to be using these HG LRC antennas instead of the O3 air units antenna, or the antennas that iFlight buy and flies usually come with. Mostly because I'm quite a fan of HG LRC's products, but also I couldn't get any of those antennas that the iFlight buy and flies come with. And And then this is the Gemfan Hurricane props that I'm going to be using for this build. I've got a few sets of these. This is the 51477. So I'm not going to be putting this whole frame together on camera, just because if you're watching this video you probably have done this before and want to do this yourself. And also iFlight has got tons of manuals and assembly guides and wiring diagrams of all of their products in a Google Drive that I'll put in the description. Just one little thing that I would like to note that took me a hot minute to figure out was this little LED board that sits in the middle. It's meant to illuminate the iFlight logo at the bottom, and in the arms it's got piping that it's supposed to illuminate. So if you have a look at the ends of these legs, you can see that there's sort of a little groove there, and those are meant to hold this in place, this little tiny little board. So let's see if I can zoom into that a little bit. There we go. So the little board just like slides right in underneath it. As you can see, it's like underneath those two parts of those legs right now. So when you have all four legs in, with the little tiny PC board for the LED, you have to feed this wire through the sensor plate. It's through the sensor hole in the plate that sits above it, this hole. There's no other way for that wire to get out of there. And then those outside screws that I have through the legs have thread in them. So you want to do those first, but you want to be very careful not to hurt that little board. Right, now I've put together the basics of the frame. The arms is there with the little PC board mashed in there between all of that. Now it's time to get onto the electronics. Firstly, obviously the ESC with the motors. So here we go. It's everything you get with the ESC, more stack screws, which one thing I have to give iFlight props to is their stack screws come with some nylock on it, which helps a tremendous amount. I wish more manufacturers would do that. It just goes so far for your screws not undoing themselves on the day-to-day. Okay, so we got the little ESC. So obviously we want to put these little gummies on there first. So what people usually do is they would take some dental floss to pull it through. I've tried that in the past, and all that I really managed to do was to tear the gummy in half, essentially. So I just force them through. There we go, there's one through. Right, I got all four gummies installed on there, and the beauty of iFlight is that that cap slides in there so beautifully. This design is magnificent. iFlight really are geniuses, and that's so neat and out of the way. The next step, mounting the motors with the very iconic iFlight feet. The frame kit comes with a bunch of screws that's just a bit longer than the ones you get with the actual motors, so they fit in here perfectly. Alright, we got half a drone here already. So next thing that we're going to do is these cable protectors that goes on the arms, 2 long ones, 2 short ones. Short ones obviously for the front arms, long ones for the back arms. Pretty easy. You just slide all the wires through. So I have heard that these are prone to breaking in a prop strike, but I mean, you can just get new ones. They're quite cheap and I think they look quite nice. They finish the build very nicely, and if it damages your cable then you can just use some heat shrink on it. Look at that. Let me just there we go. Have a look at that. So nice and clean. It just keeps your wires so nice and tidy. I'm going to do all 4 quick. Alright, motors are on, wire guards are on, and it's starting to come together nicely. Next thing we've got to do is solder up the wires to the ESC. So first thing we got to do, trim these wires. I like to give them a little bit of extra length. Just cut them off. And then these silicone wires you can just strip back a little bit with your fingernails. Zoom in a little bit for this part. So then tin the pads on the ESC. That's probably a bit too much solder, but you can always get some off. You see those nice little beads. And then we're gonna tin the 3 wires, preferably not over the ESC. Because you don't want any of those little solder blobs falling somewhere on the ESC and shorting something out. There we go. And then this is where a tweezer comes in really handy. Those wires are actually a bit too long. Don't be shy to trim them down even more. You want them perfect. Even this one. Trim it down just a smidge. Grab my tweezers because these wires get kind of hot. There we go. we go. First one done. Let's do the other three quickly. And there we are. That looks really neat and tidy. iFlight's design makes it really quite difficult for a person to do this in an untidy way. One other thing that I do want to add is that I know most people use flux pens when they do soldering on pads like this. I do not, just because I have never gotten around to buying one, and my builds have never given me the sort of issues that you would get from not enough flux. So take it as you will. Use it, don't use it, it's all up to you. Other ESCs that I have done for builds in the past, I do like to try and keep it as neat as possible. Don't know if you can see that. This is my 7-inch long-range drone, and there you can see the soldering onto the ESC. I always try and keep it as clean and tidy as possible. There we go. And try to have the cables not hang out where they can get pinched or caught up in something or whatever. Okay, I've gotten the flight controller, gotten its harness plugged into the ESC board. So usually the flight controller and the ESC would come with one of these, so you never really have short of them. And if you're using the same brand like this, usually you don't have to worry, they should just work straight up, but I would recommend just checking wiring diagrams to make sure that it's all good and you got them wired up the way that they're supposed to be. Then if you do, you can put the flight controller on, and then we've got these little screws. I'm gonna put them on there. That'll keep everything in place nice and neat. Might have to take the flight controller off again for all we know, but you know, that's part of the game. And these screws, you don't want to really secure them too tightly because it might interfere with your gyro on your flight controller. If everything's too tight, there should still be room for some movement. You want them just up against those rubbers. Very much like this. Boo. Looks great so far. Cool, so next thing I want to do is mount a little buzzer that sits in this little TPU piece that looks just like that, and this is made very well thought out, so you can also put your receiver in there. That just lives in there, mounts there, so that your buzzer hole sits in that hole in the frame. So gonna put the one. Right, there we go. That's mounted, as you can see. And now this little dangly thing that's been in the way for so long, we can finally plug that into there, so it's out of the way. And then that little plug goes to the flight controller, and the other two are going to be for the side LEDs. So actually, let me check where that little cable is. Cool, so there we go. The little plug for the buzzer and the LEDs goes there into the flight controller, and I've actually lifted up the flight controller to take that set of wires just under the flight controller, and then it comes out and plugs in right in front of that little guy that we just plugged in. Right, so next thing I want to do is the receiver. I've got this tiny little ELRS receiver, and like I mentioned earlier, this little TPU piece is made to a receiver to be kept in there, but the problem that I have with that is that this little piece is supposed to mount here at the bottom like that with the antenna, and even with the longer of the two ELRS antennas, it doesn't get there. So what I've decided is the little receiver, I'm going to hide it under here, like right in there, so that the antenna cable can sit right here. And then I'm not going to get away with using the short one, but that's fine. So I'm going to use this plug, which is made for the receiver, but for some reason the wiring diagram recommends that if you use LRS to use these solder pads on the side of the flight controller, but I am rather going to use this for my LRS because it's got 5 volts and it's got an RX and a TX, and so plugs are just easier, so I'm gonna rather do that. Got a little plug. The only downside to doing it like this is that unfortunately I have to put the wires through there next to the cap and solder it onto the receiver like this before plugging this in right there. Otherwise I'd have to remove the whole flight stack in order to get in there to solder it onto the receiver. But nonetheless, let's do this. Right, so now we've got RX and TX left, but we got to make sure that the RX and TX is inverted from what it's going to be on the flight controller, because TX goes to RX, RX goes to TX. But you should know this. Right, got all the cables soldered on there and the antenna, so here we go with our little sleeve that we're going to heat shrink over it to protect it. That's the noise of a heat gun. Cool. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this double-sided sticky tape, just a little tab, put it on the bottom of this just so I can try and mount that as deep in there and away from where the air unit is going to be with its heat as possible. Right, so the air unit, what you do is the top plate you take off that's got the logo on it, and then you get this little heat sink with the kit that, and then you install these two pigtails. You'll notice that they sort of have to cross like that, otherwise this heat sink doesn't fit properly. And then this helps with heat dissipation, but the 4 holes where the screws go in goes through the body over here. So as you can see, there are 4 little holes, and if you look at from the other side, there's cutouts so that you can get those 4 screws in to screw down the air unit, which is pretty nifty. I quite like that as a design choice. So I'm going to do that quick. So I managed to mount my air unit successfully. Goes upside down like that, and then in the process realized that I've been an idiot and I haven't soldered my power leads on, so I'm going to do that quick. XT60 first. This side I always do first. Always a good idea to take a random XT60 plug, no matter what it's for, plug that in there, just because when you heat these up, just so the plastic doesn't melt and move the pins around. And then ample solder to make sure this guy's not going anywhere. Like that. You can see that's a pretty decent solder joint. The side same. Those are pretty good joints. I'm more than happy with those. Now, this guy, I'm just going to use a little screwdriver and put it under the ESC just to lift it up a little bit to get those pads away from the air unit just a little bit. Cool. These leads have very short little exposed wires. I would expose a little bit more just so you got more wire to hold on to. Also, don't trust the tin that's on these wires themselves, always add more. go. Those joints look pretty good. Right, so I put the whole back end together with the two pigtails that comes out of the air unit plus the power connector. I did cut these wires a little bit shorter and resolder them off camera, and I would suggest if you're doing the same build you do the same. If these are too long they'll probably hang out the sides and not look good. This is perfect the way it is now. I just haven't put it on yet because the air units needs its power here in the back, so I'm going to get that little harness ready quickly because that's a little modification we also need to do, and then run that and then mounting the camera, and we're almost there. Cool, so I've made this little harness to go from the air unit to the flight controller. Should just pop in right in there. Obviously won't. Right, cool. And then this side's going right to the front of, to this plug right in front of the flight controller. There we go. Almost there. Now we can put this on and attach the antennas. Alright, so now I've put together the little camera cage, which is really neat. It's a little aluminium case with this one standoff at the front, and then these little rubber thingies on the side that helps with the stabilization on the camera. And before we can mount that, we have to mount the side plates for the LEDs and the cage essentially. So let's go ahead and do that. Nice and snug. Just want to make sure there's no motor wires getting caught underneath there. That's very nice, and then we can go ahead and plug in the little LED plug. That's a little bit more tricky than what I thought. There we go, it's in. Right, and for those of you who might be wondering, it is indeed a new day. If you see a drastical change in the lighting, this one I'm going to try and actually plug in the LED plug before I put this on. I think that might be a bit easier. Let's see. And now we're ready to mount the camera. There we go. There we go, and look at that. Almost there. That looks so good. We just got the top plate left to go. That way around. So we got to do the top plate and then let's do the battery grip first. So So you do get 2 of these in the box, and I don't think you need to be too worried about screwing it up. It's not the end of the world if it's a bit skew, but try and get it as aligned as possible. Sorry, there we go. That's pretty good. And then before we finish up, we need battery straps. So there's one of them is a bit thicker than the other one. They sit over there, one the other way around to the other. That's how I usually do. Boom. Okay. Cool. Battery straps aren't pinched, so there we go. That is starting to look super clean. So one other thing that we still need is this guy, our little GoPro mount, TPU GoPro mount, but in the box you get these 4 M3 screws that have washers, which is actually, sorry, 6. Look at that, iFlight beauty. And these have built-in washers to go on the TPU, just because if you use normal screws they tend to rip through these GoPro TPU mounts over time if you're at all a bit rough with them and the GoPros. There we go. Look at that. What a beaut. So now it's time to hop over to the configurator. Alright, now we're in Betaflight. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're on configurator 10.10 or whatever the latest version of that might be. Then we want to update firmware and auto detect board, and 4.5 is what we currently want. 4.5 latest dev means it's probably still in testing and might have a few bugs, so I'm just going to go with the 4.5 RC2. Radar protocol is Crossfire because I'm using ELRS. Crossfire and ELRS uses the same protocol, so you'll see there's no ELRS protocol to select there. Acro, GPS, blah blah blah, all of that. Motor protocol D-shot, that is it. And load firmware online. This might take a minute, and then flash firmware. Ignore the risk. Yes. Cool. Once it's successful, top right, you just click connect, close. Right now, you just want to make sure that the quad in the picture moves the same way yours just does. So nose up, goes nose up, no back up, goes like that. Then we want to calibrate the accelerometer. So I usually put my quad on my 3D printer bed because I know that's level, but if you have a table or something, you know that's level, that's good enough. So just click that, and then cool, go configuration, check if there's any things what you usually have. I usually put RX lost on, so it starts beeping when it loses connection for obvious reasons. Cool, that's all good. Save and reboot. Now I'm gonna go to presets, and then because we have the O3, we want to go O3 air unit, and then that, and it is on UART1. Let me just quick double check that. And yes, it is on UART1. So we want HDOSD map to DisplayPort. Yes. Cool. Pick that. And then while we're here, so then while we're in presets, we want to go preset resources, and you want to add iFlight factory resources. So those are them. I'll leave them in the description so they copy and pastable. You just add them in like that, and you click save and mark them or enable them. Okay, and then what we want to do is go category, bind and fly, and then you want to firmwares clear that. So the only option is bind and fly, and then you look for the model, in which case we are the nazgul F5V2. And let's just check HD dynamic initial default presets. Yeah, I'm sorry, LS receiver. I think that's it. Pick, agree, agree. There we go. That should enable it. Right, then after we've done that, we want to go to ports. Now you should see UART1 is configured as the MSP, and it should show VTX MSP plus DisplayPort, and then we used UART2 for our transmitter, so we just want to enable serial RX there, save and reboot. Cool. Then we go to receiver. Well, this fact that all of those are like that is a good sign. Then you want to grab your controller, just make sure that things react. So like yours actually your roll is actually roll, pitch is actually pitch, because that has messed me around in the past once when I had that a bit wrong. Okay, then let's go to, so you must always be on aux1 on LRS like that. Then angle mode I usually do have, and the same switch as my failsafe. Add range. There we go. I want it there. That's it. Yeah, that bit. Ryzen no fail safe. Do want to add that also on all. Sorry, add range also on aux3, because that's usually what I have when I have a GPS enabled to activate failsafe when I wanted to return to home. Beeper is aux2. That's it. Actually, I'm gonna move that to position 3 because um, I wanted to add LED to that. Parallel acro DX. No, that's not an option. Okay, and let me just go through this again just to make sure. LED low, is that it? I need the range. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Telemetry black box, FPV angle black box. Flip over after crash. This I want on. Yeah, so aux4. Yeah, it can be there. Save that. I think that's all we need. Let me just check. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Motors. We go to motors. So D-Shot 600, we want that enabled, agree, that should be fine. And then, okay, let's see that our motors spin in the right direction. Understand the risks. Motor test motors, cool. Okay, motor 1. And wait. Okay, so save and reboot. Fine. Back to motors. Okay. Enable, there we go. Mode 1. So I just want to so mode 1 should spin inward. Wrong direction. Mode 2. Wrong direction. Mode 3. That's the right direction. Mode 4. Wrong direction. Cool. Stop motors. So motor direction, I understand. Let's do them individual. So 1. Reverse. And that actually works for the first time ever. Mode 2. That is the wrong way. Let's reverse. That's worked. Mode 3. That's the right direction. Mode 4. Wrong direction. Reverse. That's the right direction. Close. Cool. Perfect. That's good. You obviously want to do this with no props on your quad. That's not how you do this. Although some people do put props on and just not tighten them to see what direction they're spinning. All that I do is I lightly pinch the motor between my fingers and just feel which way they're spinning while I raise the throttle on that particular motor. I find that much safer and easier, and I would suggest you do the same rather than putting the prop on, because they could fly off and cut your face off or something. Cool, then OSD. So what I do here usually is I go to the CLI, and then I have a note here where I have all of my OSD settings, and I would suggest that you do the same thing. If you have another quad that you're happy with, just go to CLI, press dump, and check all the set OSD elements. You copy those. So you just go paste all those there. Done. Type save, enter. There we go. Right, then we go OSD, and it's got all of my things. So you'll see that I have the GPS OSD elements there as well. This is quite minimal. That's how I do. I do definitely plan on installing a GPS on this. I just don't have one at the moment. But I'll make a separate video on that, just on how to install it and everything. One thing that I have noticed by accident when I flew my long range was when the GPS unplugged accidentally, it actually removed the GPS elements off of my OSD completely, so it didn't show as empty. So I want to see if it works the same here, if I just don't have a GPS, even though the elements are there, if it's not going to show up. So that's an interesting thing to see. Right, I think that is it for now. Alright, so I'm going to be flying them with these bad boys. They are 1300 milliamp hour success packs that I got from Drone Batteries South Africa. I'll put the link down. Definitely check them out. It is the place to get drone batteries in South Africa. Can highly recommend. Alright guys, this is it. It's all done and dusted. The only difference is that I configured this props in, and the bind and fly usually comes with props out. I just did this because that's what I'm used to with all of my other drones, and it would probably confuse me, and every time I try and put props on and fly in the field I would put them on the wrong way. I might try it out the other way around just for interest's sake to see what it's all about, but is this not the most epic looking quad? I fully understand why this is one of the most popular bind flies. Right, this is it. We're ready to go. Got a GoPro hooked up, battery hooked up, so I'm gonna fly one pack with the GoPro and the O3A unit both recording, and I'll put those two comparisons up, or at least a little bit of it. You guys probably don't want to watch a whole flight video. And then the second pack I'm gonna fly with no GoPro and just the A unit recording, just so I can get a good comparison and give my 2 cents about what I think about that. And in case anyone was wondering, the thing I said about the GPS OSD elements is true. They do not show up in the goggles because there's no GPS connected, but I'm pretty sure when I do add a GPS they will just work. The frame does come with this little GPS mount that can just screw onto the back of the TPU piece when the antennas are. So I'm definitely going to be making a separate video on that, so if that's something you're interested in, hang around. Right, let's go outside and take this for a flight. Alright, so we're ready for our maiden flight. I'm gonna put the GoPro footage side by side with the O3A unit footage so you can see that for yourself. Holy wow, this guy goes. And it hangs. Even with the GoPro on it, I was not expecting it to handle this. I was not expecting it to fly this great. Alrighty-o, so we have a fresh pack, even though I didn't completely empty that previous pack. Got a fresh pack with no GoPro, just gonna be recording on the O3A unit, so let's see how that goes. And I've got pretty high hopes because it felt freaking amazing with a GoPro. Here we go. Jeez. Right guys. that's it for now. Gonna go fetch that guy. I hope you enjoyed. Hang around for some more.